This is Dr. Halima. Today's lecture is about what is creative translation. This is our first lecture on this course. What is creative translation? Now, before we start, we should know the learning outcomes of this lecture. Now, by the end of this lecture, you should really show knowledge of different meanings of the term creativity. In other words, by the end of this lecture, you will be able to tell us that you know different meanings of creativity. Creativity has different meanings in different contexts. So you need to understand the concept first, and then hopefully you would be able to show some understanding of the concept of creativity in relation to translation. So two things you should be able to do by the end of this lecture. Show knowledge of the meaning of creativity in general, and then show understanding of the concept of creativity in relation to translation. Very important. All right. Now, in this lecture, I'm trying to make it as interesting as possible, and I hope that you will find it interesting. Not only this lecture, the whole course. I myself, to be honest, when I prepared this course, I loved it. I really enjoyed it. Why? Because it gives you the opportunity to be really somebody else. In other words, creative, imaginative, and inventive. It will enable you to show whether you have talents or not. Now, the main points I'm going to discuss in this lecture are as follows. We will talk about the meaning of creativity. Always, always, always establish the concepts, establish the meaning of whatever you are going to talk about. So the concepts are important. So we establish the meaning of this concept, creativity, in general terms and in relation to translation. We will also mention some definitions of the creativity. Then what we will be doing, we will be talking about a creative translation in theory, and then creative translation in practice. And then the last point, we will be talking about literary text, creative translation in literary text. So these are the main points we will be discussing today. I might stress certain points. These are the slides. They are useful, they are important, and I have tried to include in them as much information as possible. But you need to study these slides in addition to the main handout text. I will give the administration here a lecture you can refer to, written handouts. So hopefully a combination of these slides and the lecture would enable you to really understand what we mean by creativity or creative translation. Now, if we say, okay, what's the meaning of creativity? Now, creativity, anybody would know where this creativity term comes from. It comes from the Latin term, creo. What creo means to create, to make. Now, the first time to create appeared was in 1400. 1400, in the time of Chaucer. Chaucer He was a poet, an English poet, and he mentioned it in his Parsons Tale. And the word create has as a divine creation. It means it has a divine meaning. Now, in contemporary times, especially in Arabic, you need to be very careful. Now, you will notice that this course, I've tried to include in it as many examples as possible so that you understand what we mean by a creativity or a creative translation. Now, you need to really be very careful about this term, creative, or to create, a creation, a creator. Now, these words have religious connotations in Arabic and in English. Now, in Arabic, for instance, خلق, خلق, خالق. Now, I mean, okay, some people might say خلق سيارة. You cannot say خلق سيارة. Therefore, you need to really be aware of using the right term, the right translation. Instead of saying خلق, I mean, there are so many words in Arabic. Why don't you use اخترع, أوجد, أبدع? And of course, there are other terms. But these are just examples to show you the significance and the importance of this term, create, creative, create, creation, creator. Okay? It's very important. Now, okay. Now, the definition of creativity in the dictionary, you can see it means inventive. To be creative, it means to be inventive, to be imaginative. Now, when you are creative and imaginative, your ideas, your thoughts, should show your imagination. They show your talent, your inspiration, your productivity, fertility, ingenuity, inventiveness, cleverness. I mean, this is what it means, creativity, according to the dictionary. Now, in Arabic, for instance, or an example. Now, how would you translate the following into Arabic? I'm not going to translate it now because it would take a long time. So this is just an example, a tester, just to see how tricky translation can be. Now, the creator of the universe, there must be a maker of this world, the creator of this beautiful machine. The maker of Mercedes must have been a genius. The inventor of the light bulb is Thomas Edison. Now here, when you are translating the creator of the universe, is different from when you are translating the creator of this beautiful machine. I leave it to you. They say it in English. We might not say it in Arabic. خالق هذه السيارة. No. You see what I mean? So you need to really appreciate the connotations, the religious connotations, the social connotations of, and the spiritual connotations of any term you use, especially when it comes down to terms like creativity or creation. Now, this is just a little example for you to understand, the word creativity. Okay. Now, I am going to give you some definitions, general definitions of a creativity. In science, creativity means the production of novel, useful products. The production of novel, useful products. If you go to, they say, okay, they have produced a new product, new production, but useful. Novel means new. So, in scientific terms, creativity means novel but useful products. Again, it means creativity can also be defined as the process of producing something that is both original and worthwhile. You need to be original to be called creative. And being original is not enough. It should be worthwhile. It means it should be really good to be able to call you, creative. Another meaning of creativity, it refers to the invention or origination of any new thing. Any new thing, like a product, like a solution, artwork, literary work, a joke, that has a value. So creativity could refer to any new thing, any new original thing. It could be, for instance, it could be industrial product. It could be an artwork. It could be a book. It could be any type of production, but it should be really of value. It should be of value, not useless products. There are so many products around, so many things are written. You can't say that. You can't say about them that these are creative products or their writers are creative. No way. Creativity, as you can see, has certain characteristics. Originality. It has to be original. It has to be genuine. Not only original, it has to be worthwhile. It has to be of value. It has to be appropriate. It has to be, novel. So you need to be careful about all these definitions. They are very important. So you can't just say about anything, oh, this is a creative. No. Or, oh, he is really talented or creative. No, you need to really first understand very well what we mean by creativity in different contexts, When you are talking about a car or a machine or a book or even a joke. Oh, well, he is really being very talented. He has come out with a joke. Nobody has come out before. His joke is original. His joke is worthwhile, of value, and talented, person. That's, this is what definition of creativity. Some more definitions. Now, creativity is like an act of turning new and imaginative ideas into reality. In other words, if you want to be creative, you can't just sit back and say, all right, well, I have so many good ideas in my head. I mean, wonderful ideas. Nobody has ever thought of them. This is not enough. You need to really produce them. So creativity is a process of thinking and producing. Bring them out into reality. Bring them out into life. So that you can say, all right, I am being creative now. Do you understand? So you need to really understand what we mean by creativity. So it is production and implementation of an idea. Innovation is the production or implementation of an idea. So as I said, you need to not only think the idea, but you need to produce the idea. You need to implement it. You need to put life into it and say, okay, here we are, or here I am. I've got a new idea. It's new in the sense of I can produce something using this idea. Now, okay. Again, creativity I like this. I like this definition very much. Why? Because it shows that you are really into creativity. Creativity requires what? It doesn't require laziness. Oh, yes, I am being creative. No. Creativity requires passion. You need to be really into what you are doing. You need to be committed. You need to, okay, I'm doing this work, and I'm really working hard to make it stand out of so many books, so many articles, so many works, as being really something novel, something new. So to be creative, you need to be really passionate about what you are doing. You need to be committed to what you are doing, whether you are translating a text or whether you are making a machine or making an experiment or whatever you are doing. You need to have, passionate means to be really in love with what you are doing, to be creative. So I like this. Again, the last one, to be creative is to be novel and appropriate. Now, some people might say, all right, this is novel, this is new, this is original. But it's not appropriate, especially when it comes down to translation. Now, when I ask you, for instance, okay, I will give you some more examples about this. Okay, let's elaborate on this because it's quite important. Now, when you are translating a certain text, whether from Arabic into English, and you say to yourself, look, I am going to really bring in a new translation. Nobody has come out has come up with. This is not enough. When you are translating, or when you are rendering a text from English into Arabic, your Arabic text should not only be new, should not only be novel, should not only be original. It should be appropriate, adequate. You know, so you can't just say out of the blue a translation that has nothing to do with the context or with the reality or with the main topic. We will elaborate on this later when we find out about more examples, inshallah. Now we come to this fourth point, creative translation in theory. Now, I'm sure you studied the theory of translation, and I'm sure you are aware of so many theories, so many ideas, so many views on the theory of translation. When it comes to, some people say, some people have come up with so many methodologies or methods, whether they are linguistics or linguistic methods or sociolinguistics or functional or symbiotics or communicative or any type of methodology. They don't seem to really unite about the best method to use in translation. So there is a lot of debate about, the methods, the approaches, and the ways we do translation. But the main debate or the main dichotomy between these people, I would really divide them between two types of people. People or linguists or translation theorists, whatever you call them. One party would say, okay, this is translatable. Yes, we can communicate this message to people of another language. It is communicable, it is transferable, it is translatable. We have another group of people who say, oh, well, there is nothing really translatable. I mean, exactly translatable. So the idea of equivalence, the idea of translatability and untranslatability, people have talked about and they have written about so much. But you need to understand that when it comes to translation, you need to have a stand. You need, for instance, you need to understand that 100% exact sameness of a text cannot be achieved. No way. No way. You know, like for instance, the word. I will come to the word of yes. I will come to the example before later. But this is the idea. This is the idea Susan suggested, that exact translation is impossible. But what you can do, you can really achieve approximation. It means it is very approximate. It is very near to the original. This is what you can do. But when we are dealing with the creative translation, you will see that that it's a different ball game. You know, we will see. We will come. It will get more interesting when it comes down to translating, for instance, poetry, when translating drama or short stories, or even orations, you know, like speeches delivered by our great Khalifa Umar ibn al-Khattab or Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, or even, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad, the greatest orator in the whole world, our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We will come to that later, inshallah. But as I said, you know, people differ. People differ about, you know, whether they can really translate a certain text and give it its absolute equivalence or equivalent into another language. Now, here it's people compare. Some people, I mean, you will read about it in this slide, that some people say, okay, why do we call an author a writer? Now, for instance, one of you, inshallah, or I don't know, probably one of you is a book writer. Or why do we call, for instance, a writer? He is a creative. Why do writers, general writers, could claim themselves as, all right, we are writers, we are creative writers? I mean, they claim that we are being creative. Why, people say, why can't we say that a translator can be a creative translator? Is it because he is transferring, you know, a text, a source text, into a target language? Or is it because he cannot really put more into that source text? So there is a debate between the writer of the text and the translator of the text. The writer is considered as the creator of the text, as an author, as genuinely the originator of that text, whereas the translator, who might produce a text in another language, probably better than the original, if he really goes so creatively, you know, about the text. But there is a debate. So, you know, we need to really balance it. And each person should be given his or her due rights. You know, an author could be creative, and a translator could be creative, but within each one of them within his or her own context, you know. Okay. Now this is it. It is very important. Listen. Now, here we are talking about the translation, creative translation. Now, what is creative translation? What is creative translation? It is very important to understand this particular point. It is a rewriting process. It is a rewriting process. When you have this text in English and you want to translate it into Arabic, you need to rewrite. You need to go through a rewriting process. But within this rewriting process, you need to take into account the three elements, three requirements. You have to bear in mind that your translation should be accuracy. Requirement number one, accuracy. Requirement number two, naturalness. Requirement number three, communication. Accurate, it means you have to really transfer the meaning of the source text into the target language or the target text accurately. The meaning should be really accurate. Now, naturalness, it has to be natural. It has to sound. It has to feel. It has to have the impact of the source, the impact on the source text reader. It has to have the impact of the text on the target language reader, the same as the source text reader. This is natural. And communicative, I'm sure you know communicative, it means you need to be able to pass on the message communicatively, to communicate the text into another language, into the minds of the other language readers. So three requirements. Three requirements of creative translation. To achieve creative translation, you need to bear in mind, look, I have to be accurate, I have to be natural, I have to be communicative. All right? This is quite important. Very important. And don't forget, you need to be passionate, you need to be committed to achieve these requirements. In addition to that, I would stress the importance of you need to be really novel and appropriate. Now, as I said earlier, I would come up now to a certain example. The idea of equivalence. I'm sure you've come across the idea of equivalence in translation. There is a lot of debate about theory of equivalence. There are so many theories, but regarding the idea of equivalence, what it means translators should really do their best to find equivalences of the source text into the target text. In other words, you have a text in Arabic, you need to find or you need to translate it into a target language, let it be English. Equivalent. Equivalent means the same. Means the same in meaning or accuracy, natural, communicative, equivalent, you know. Now, it is not possible. It is not possible. Here, we have, for example, we have the word yes. What is the equivalent of yes in Arabic? Is it na'am? You ask yourself. Not really. Now, you need to understand the context. You are using the word na'am or yes in English. Now, listen to this. Now, a very simple example. Yes in English is generally understood as an expression of agreement, meaning right or all right. In English, if you say yes, it means all right or yes. Whereas the Arabic equivalent, na'am, is interpreted differently in relation to the situation. Now, if you want to be creative and if you want to be skillful translator, you need to really translate the word na'am in accordance with the situation it is used in. Now, na'am in Arabic sometimes means here I am. Na'am in reply to somebody is asking a group for someone whom he had not met or known before. What do you want? Na'am. You call me, I say na'am, and na'am in response to someone's demand that has not been properly heard. Na'am, somebody is calling somebody else na'am, is here I am, or come again, and so on. So equivalent, the idea of equivalence is very difficult to achieve in translation. But as people say, or we have repeated this, that you really try to be as approximate as possible to the original, as near as possible to the original. We will find out more about this idea of equivalence, this idea of creativity, this idea of productivity in translation, with more examples in the lectures to follow, inshallah. Now, we move to the more interesting bit. What I have said so far is mainly theoretical. It's like introducing you to the subject. It's like giving you ideas about what we mean by creativity, what we mean by creative translation, what you are expected to know about creativity and creative translation. Now we will apply this concept to certain texts, certain examples. So let's talk about creative translation in practice. Okay, now in practice, how would you, if you want to apply the concept of creativity to translation in practice, you need to say, okay, I am translating something, I need to be really, to be novel, I need to be new, and I need to be appropriate, I need to be adequate, and it's not only that, I need to be inventive, I need to be imaginative, I need to really, it is like an amalgamation, it is a combination of surprise, simplicity, and utter rightness. Now, when you are translating literary texts and you want to be really creative about it, you need to say, okay, you need to have this wow factor. In other words, sometimes, you will say, oh, I wish I thought of that before, or oh, why I didn't think of that, you know. When you have this feeling, then you have started to become really into creative translation. Now, let's take this example and see how for instance, the Google or machine translation would do it. Now, we have an expression in English, out of sight, out of mind. Now, it was translated into Russian. You know what it meant in Russian, out of sight, out of mind? It meant like invisible idiot. Invisible idiot, it means, you know, idiot means stupid. You cannot see. So this is the translation of Google or the machine translations. Now, if you translate it, I translated in Arabic. It's a translation in Arabic. Look at me. Look at the screen. بعيد عن الأنظار من العقل. Out of sight, out of mind. It doesn't make sense. Now here you need to really think and produce. You need to imagine. You need to really be inventive. You need to have this, you know, this feel or this urge of surprise, but simple, but right. Now look here. Now how would you translate such a proverb, out of sight, out of mind, into Arabic? Is it A? Is it B? Is it C? Is it D? Is it E? Is it F? Or something else? I'm not going to give you the answer. As I said, most of the questions, or the majority of, well, all the questions, to be honest, will come from the slides and from the lectures. So you need to study them very well. Now, after you have attended so far in the lecture, or you listened to me so far, now you can tell right away which one. خارج عن البصر خارج عن العقل، بعيدا عن الأنظار بعيدا عن العقل، بعيدا عن بصرك بعيدا عن عقلك، بعيدا عن العين بعيدا عن القلب، بعيدا عن عينك بعيدا عن قلبك، البعد جفاء والقرب رخاء إلى آخره. Now you can see that we have so many versions of translations for this particular proverb. I leave it to you. Which one is the most appropriate translation of the proverb in English? As I said, if you want to choose one of them, you have to ask yourself, all right, what's the definition of creative translation? Well, it has to be new, it has to be imaginative, it has to be appropriate, it has to be accurate, it has to be natural, it has to be communicative. This is applicable whether you are translating from English into Arabic or from Arabic into English. All right? So this is a practical example. Again, more examples. We have the word Mother Nature is angry. The idea of the question of equivalence. Mother Nature is angry. English people or people in the West, they would say Mother Nature is angry. What they mean, I mean, Mother Nature is angry, it might sound to you if you were in the West. Or, you know, and somebody says to you, or especially I'm talking about Britain now, if somebody comes to you, oh, look, and there is really gales and storms and so on, and rains and everything is really, really dangerous. And they would say, well, look, Mother Nature is angry. You being a Muslim, you know, with all these ideas about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He is the only alone God, then you would say, oh, well, what is He saying? So it doesn't sound right to you, because when Mother Nature is used in many English countries to refer to God or Goddess, but they don't say God is angry with us, but we Muslims, we say God is angry with us. Now, in this case, you need to really appreciate, you know, the religious connotations of any expressions. You know, so you need to look at it creatively as well. Now, how would you translate such expressions into Arabic as a creative translator? See, is it الطبيعة الأم غاضبة، الكون غاضب علينا، الآلهة غاضبة علينا، ربنا غاضب علينا، ربنا غاضب? I leave it to you. I'm not going to give you the answers. You need to find out the answers yourself. This is the main purpose of this lecture and the course. You need to practice. Now, another example. Give you an example. For instance, the equivalent of bathroom. Now, how would you translate bathroom into Arabic? And you want to be really creative. Again, would you translate it as A, B, C, D, E, F? Which one? These are examples for you to solve for yourself. After you study, I'm sure after you have read the slides, you have read the lectures, you have listened to me, I'm sure you will be able to guess or to find out which one is the appropriate equivalence. Now, the last point about literary text. Now, literary text, unlike any other types of text, such as technical, scientific, legal, commercial text, you know, literary text, such as rhetorical orations, drama, stories, poetry, Islamic documents, historical documents, you know, all these texts, creativity or creative translation is apparent in them, and you can practice creative translation using these texts. And but you need to really know how to convey the experience, the meaning, and of a target of a source text into the experience and the meaning in a target language. Now, I would like you, for instance, here, if you want to translate, let's say, this little excerpt from the Prophet ﷺ sermon into English. Now, you need to really understand the experience. You need to understand the meaning. You need to really live the past. You need to live the experience where all these people were gathered around the Prophet ﷺ and saying, أيها الناس اسمعوا قولي فإني لا أدري لعلي لا ألقاكم بعد عامي هذا بهذا الموقف أبدا. Now, how would you translate such expert into English, creating an atmosphere, an experience, conveying the meaning, conveying the social meaning, the religious meaning, the spiritual meaning, the semantic meaning, the communicative meaning, the experience? How would you create the experience? Are you going to choose A, B, C, D, or E, or something else? I leave it to you. I leave it to you. Which one is the most appropriate translation to this particular excerpt? All right? Now, here we are. Now, in each lecture, there are two practicals. Practical A, translate from English into Arabic, and then practical B, translate from Arabic into English. Now, the purpose of these practicals is to really help you practice and learn about translation. And these practicals are required in the exam. And required. You need to practice them, and probably you will find the answers or different types of translations to these practicals in other lectures. So, you need to find your way through. Now, practical A, you do it yourself. I'm not going to solve it for you. No way. But you might find the answer in the following lectures, because I will be talking about them, So try them out, translate it, cooperate with your friends, whoever, as long as you come up with something really creative. Now, practical 1, lecture 1, practical A, translate the following couple of poetry lines into Arabic. Use your own imagination. These are two lines. When he smells the scent of the rose, he wants to see it. When he sees the face of the rose, he wants to pluck it. I leave it to you. Translate it into really, really good Arabic. Can you come up with poetic translation? I leave it to you. Now, practical B, translate the following into English. Use your creative ability in your translation. نفحات من الإيمان في مكة والمدينة المنورة. نفحات الأنس في دبي ليالي الأنس في باريس. I leave it to you. How would you be creative about the translation of nafahat? All right? So, this is lecture number 1, and I hope that you have understood and you have been able to follow my discussion of this lecture, and I hope that you will do the practicals and learn from it. Thank you very much indeed, and I wish you all the best. Thank you.